Hello everyone, hope you guys are doing well. So today we will be starting on introduction um, with Node, and so today the goal or the thing that we will be talking is Node.js. So we will be seeing introduction to Node.js, and then we will be, as we go ahead, we'll learn many more things. Okay. So now basic principles. Bringing more dynamics into web pages and original idea beyond JavaScript. Okay. Now, the, the goal of using JavaScript was to bring dynamics into web pages, right? Previously, scripting language was intended to compensate for the weakness of HTML, right? But like there was, for example, when using HTML, you cannot do state management, right? And again, JavaScript, you can do lots of manipulation, right? So then that was the main goal of using JavaScript. Now, so then the support for JavaScript featured in Node.js. Okay. Okay, now let's see the study of Node.js to help us understand what Node.js is and how some of the development decisions came about. Let's explore the history of the platform origins. It was developed by Randall. We all know, great guy. Now, Randall was the first person to introduce Node.js. He was a PhD student in mathematics who thought better of it, abandoned his efforts, and instead preferred to South America with a one-way ticket and very little money in his pocket. There he kept this idea about by teaching English. During this time, he got in touch with PHP and Ruby and discovered his affection for web development. The problem with working with Ruby is Ruby framework called Rails was that it couldn't deal with current requests without any workaround. The applications were too slow, utilized the CPU entirely. Nadal founded a solution to this problem by using Mongrel, a web server application based on Ruby. Unlike traditional web servers, Mongrel responds to user requests and generates responses dynamically, where otherwise only static HTML pages were delivered. The task that actually led to the creation of Node.js is quite trivial from today's point of view. In 2005, Dial was looking at elegant to implement a progress bar for file uploads. However, the technology. So how did he come to so Node.js was developed by Ramdale, and then it was a very controversial thing. Nadal founded a solution. So he was stuck in a problem. The problem was that he wanted to have something like a status bar. The status of upload was queried using long polling, which is a technique where the client sends long line request to server and the server uses open channel. Dal's attempt to implement a progress bar took place in Mongrel. After sending the file to the server, it checked the status of upload using a large number of asynchronous JavaScript and XML requests and displayed it graphically in a progress bar. The downside of this is Ruby's single-threaded approach and large number of requests. Another processing approach was involved in implementation in C, yet Dahl's opinions were not limited to one thread. C as a programming language for the web as a decisive resound. Only a small number of developers are enthusiastic about this field of application. Dahl was also confronted with this problem and discarded the approach. The search for a suitable programming language continued, he led him to functional programming such as Haskell. Haskell operates was built on non-blocking I/O, which means read and write are asynchronous and don't block execution of a program. This allows languages to remain single-threaded at its core. Among the other things, no resources have been synchronized. Nadal found this solution when he was finally satisfied with JavaScript. He realized The scripting could meet all these requirements. JavaScript had already been established for web for years, so they were powerful engines and a large number of developers. Now, in January 2009, so now what happened? Like um, before Node.js, JavaScript could only be run on uh, browsers, right? Because browsers had the engines to run it. The Randall was, trying to wanted to know implement a status bar that indicates the status of his file upload. So he tried different things and then eventually he landed up with JavaScript. But then how should he take JavaScript out of the browser? Now at that time, no native web server existed in JavaScript. Fine, it couldn't handle files in a file system. There was no implemented on socket or something. All these points spoke in favor of JavaScript as the basis platform. Till that time, JavaScript was only used for interactive development. Also, the architecture of Java was argued as an implementation. The approach of top-level functions that aren't linked to any objects freely available and other things. Now, thus, Dial selected other libraries additional to JavaScript engine responsible for interpreting the JavaScript and put it in one platform. In 2009, Isaac started working on a package manager called as Node.js, the Node Package Manager breakthrough. After Dal integrated he created something called as is remember Dal was already working, right? So then he kind of he wanted to have the JavaScript functionality taken out of the browser. So then Dal kind of grouped all these things into Node.js. He chose the JavaScript conference in 2009. Uh, he officially launched Node.js. He put his eggs in one basket. If the presentation was a success, he could found founders to support his work on Node.js. He could continue his involvement. Almost a year's work could have been in vain. In a Rosing, he introduced Node.js to the audience and showed how to create a fully functional web with this few lines of JavaScript code. Using the now he showed how a server could be implemented using JavaScript. As another example, he introduced implementation of internet relay chat server. The source code for this demonstration comprised about 400 lines. Using this example, he demonstrated the architecture and thus the strengths of Node.js. The recording, so he kind of had a presentation. Let's see. Let's see his presentation. If this, or can I copy? Oh, let's no. Let's get this thing copied. Control C. No, thing is copied. So let's get this thing out of here. Let's hold on. No, just is it getting played here or? Let's get this thing here. This is his official. Let's do have a better quality. Then he kind of introduced this promise. So this is where this is the official website of Node.js, and Okay, then in 2009, Isaac Scrutler started working on package manager for Node.js. Now, after Dal integrated and created the first executable, he needed a way to introduce to public. So this became necessary because his financial resources shrank considerably to the deployment of Node.js, and he would have to stop working on Node.js if he did not find any. So we just saw his conference, right? In that conference, he introduces the whole idea of Node.js. The Node.js conquers Windows. The developers made a significant step towards the spread of Node.js by introducing native support for Windows in version 0.6 in November 2011. Up to that, Node.js only could be installed awkwardly on Windows via this Quackbin. Then, so then what happens is till that time, Node.js was being used. Surprisingly, Talent turned out he would retire from active development, and then after 3 years of working, he handed the development to Scrutler. The later, like Dahl, was an employee at Giant and actively involved in the development of Node.js. The change unsettled the community as it wasn't clear who will be developing. Was it Dahl? Could it be developed without Dahl? A single line Node.js community considered as being strong enough, and further development came the release of 0.8 version in June 12, which was primarily intended to improve the performance and maintain and stability. With the 0.10 in version in March 2013, one of the central interfaces of Node.js changed streaming application interface API. It became possible to actively pull data from a stream because previous API was already used widely. Both interfaces continue to support the IO.js, the fork of Node.js. In 2014, there was another change. Schutler, who left Node.js maintenance in the favor of his own company called npm.js, the host of npm repository, was succeeded by TJ Fontaine. The common criticism is Node.js was still not supposedly stable, version was not there. Many developers on npm joined, which had provided main containers for Node.js. Dal, okay. I Node.js in 2015, the two projects IOJS and Node.js merged into one Node.js with version 4 of the project, and then we later started releasing a stable version, the long-term support version LTS. Then came Dino again. Since the merger of IOJS and Node.js, things have become quieter around Node.js. Then HT2 was introduced, and then nevertheless, some features okay. Then we had something called as the OpenJS Foundation. In 2015, Node.js Foundation was established to coordinate development of the platform. The foundation was a subordinate project of Linux, and then OpenJS was merged. So then, um, there are lots of versions, right? How the version. So there are two versions. One is the LTS, the long term support, and then there is the other one that is the um, that is normal version of Node. So whenever you get two types of version, the LTS and Node, and the normal one. Let's see some more. Let's see. Let's get a little bit a bit more clarity in how Node Node.js came into existence. Okay, so now we are studying with the history of Node.js. Initially, it was built for only Linux and Mac. As I said, in 2009, Randall, this guy wanted to make a bar, like a tabular bar that indicates how much percentage of files have been downloaded. Then for this uh, for this very reason, he started. He thought, let's have. At that time, JS was very powerful. JS was used, but it was only used as to perform dynamic interactions. Like for example, this is a web page, right? You have a button, then you click this button. So this all was done by JS. So what Randall thought, since JS is so famous, let's take JS. Until that time, the engines that could interpret JS were only present in browsers. So if someone had to write JS code, then it would only be written in browser, as this had the V8 engine. So what Randall started, since JS is so popular, why not develop um, um, a server that could make use of JS to that makes use of JS to build the server. So then what he did, he wanted to take JS out of the browser in a local environment. Then he started the project Node.js. So this is in 2009. Now he was doing on, but then so how? When was it introduced? No, it was introduced in so he introduced this Node.js and in a conference which you just saw, JS conference. In this, he introduced in 2009 because he needed money to survive. Then what happened is, surprisingly, by 2010, um, in 2010, the NPM project happened. Now there were two guys along with Randall was his friend. So initially, Randall um, uh, Randall introduced, and then this was bought. So this presentation, he needed some funding, right? So Joint bought him. Then he met a guy at Joint called as Isaac Slucha. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing his name right or not. But then he met uh, Isaac at Joint. So in 2009, so we are still in 2009. Node.js has been taken. Now Isaac starts working on something called as Node Package Manager. And then both of them are so initially Randall is in a separate. He's working on his thing to have a progress bar for his files. Then he presented. So what he did is he took the engine out of browser, packaged it on top of JS. You said you can now use JS out of the browser as well. Now, and then he presented this paper in JSCon. That video is still there. And then Joanne bought this. At a similar time in 2009, Isaac was working on something called as a Node Package Manager. Okay, and initially he only released support for Mac and Linux. Perfect. Now in 2010, NPM happened. Then in then Node.js conquers Windows. So then what happened is, after a year, they developed Node.js for Windows. Since Windows is the most commonly used uh, computer, thereby the reach increase, the people increase, and hence Node.js became even more popular. Now in 12, no, it's still not over. We are not yet come. Now in 2012, Randall gives up. Now Isaac is still working. He continues on with the development. Then, okay. So Isaac was also working with Node.js core, and then he continued on with the progress. Then in March 2019, one of the central interfaces changed, and so then came something called as io.js. Now io.js, what did they do? They forked the main repository of Node. This is now in 2014. Another managerial shift happened. Isaac who started npm, he left npm, and then now so now it's done, maintenance is done by um, giant, right? uh, so then still a stable version was not released, so everybody was grumbling, right? We need something which is much stabler, much lighter. And then in 2015, io.js got merged with Node, and uh, then they kind of founded a committee called as a Node.js, because we need a much stable version of Node.js, and since developers need it, so two versions of Node.js released. So one is generally that has a long-term support, and then the other is the stable version. So that's how we came up with two versions of Node.js. And then later on, foundations were formed, and uh, so now, and also during this time, you see there is a lot of gap, right? The versionings, since this is 2009, 10, I mean, the versions were not coming out. So what they did is, let's have a two version. One is so let's keep on um, getting newer and newer versions of Node.js. So then that is how the long-term support versions came. So what happens is, for example, the moment, so an even number, but the moment we get an even number version, it is moved to long-term support. You saying that LTS support will be provided. And so the major advantages of Node was, now JS is out of browser. So that is what. So basically, this is basically taking it out of browser and having a Node.js. We still had two servers, right? Java server, Apache, and then HTTP. The problem is these are blocking, right? No, then Node.js is a native non-blocking. You can do, it's a single thread, and okay. So then in this we came how to, so before getting this support you could still install, but there was something called as, the workaround was using Kaggle. How to install Node.js? It's very easy. Just go to, let's see how one can, we are here, right? So now let's So it's very easy. You come here, go to node.js.org. I guess in the presentation itself, Randall mentions about that. Again, the moment you come here, it shows run JavaScript everywhere. This is the whole selling point. So then you come to download, you see different versions, whatever it is. Then you have for versions, whichever PC you are using, and then you can just follow the instructions. So I don't think so. This is something that we should be worried about. Then you will just install, and that's that's how you can get Node.js. So since Ryan Dell started it, even though he left it in between, he's still considered as the father of Node.js. Mm, yeah, that's all for this lecture. I guess it is more than sufficient. See you guys in the next one. Bye. Till that time, take care. Bye bye.